You're tuning in to Wellfound's Ask a Recruiter, where we sit down with recruiters to share their advice on the hiring process. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel. I'm here as part of Wellfound's product education team. And I'm just going to wait a minute for more people to come in. But while I'm doing that, I can talk a little bit about what we're doing today. So this is one of our Ask a Recruiter sessions. Today, we're meeting with Sam Wright from our head of partnerships at Huntr. I'll talk a little bit more about him once there's more people on the call. But today's call is a special one. We're going to talk about the state of the job market in 2026. Huntr does this amazing job of looking through a lot of job search and like market analytics and collates them. And we had him last year to share some similar insights, and I'm excited to hear them again because they can kind of contextualize your job search while you're in it. And so today is a Q&A. It's a little bit different than some of the ones if you've come to a past one because Sam is going to present like a short presentation on some of those insights I was just referring to. But after that, we're going to go straight to Q&A. He's excited to take your questions. And he likes to be talking to people directly. He does a lot of one-on-one calls with job seekers as well. So it'll be great to get his feedback. But so once we get to the questions part, we're going to start with just 3 intake questions from the survey. So those are questions from you. But then once we're done those, you can ask questions in 2 ways. You can write your questions into the chat, and then I'm going to sort of call upon them in the order that they're asked, sort of keep it democratic. I'm going to ask you if you want to ask out loud, which we encourage you to do because we love hearing people's voices. And then also, if you don't want to write anything, you can just use the hand raise tool in Zoom, and I'll call on you that way, and I'll be able to see everyone. And then the only note I have about this is just to mind the time. We're a community, and if you can keep your questions to 1 question at a time, we might be able to come back to you for a second one, but just make sure that other people have a chance to ask theirs. So in case you haven't come to any of these before, you found us through Sam's network. We are Wellfound. We help you get hired by cutting edge startups, as well as like more large public companies, because we've been around for more than 10 years now. So we've grown with those tech companies as well. So we've made over 8 million matches in our systems, over 150,000 tech jobs and 25,000 startups. So if you haven't checked us out yet, please let us know if you need any help in the process. Okay, down to the good stuff. So, like I said, Sam Wright is here. He's head of partnerships with Huntr, and he's part of the founding team. And Huntr is an AI-powered resume builder and tool to tailor your resume to match the job descriptions for the jobs that you're applying to. He combines analysis of over 1.6 million applications and hundreds of thousands of resumes with hundreds of one-on-one career coaching calls to offer data-backed best job search practices rooted in empathy and compassion, which I love, to meet this moment of immense change and uncertainty. So thank you so much for being with us, Sam. We're excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you to the Wellfound team for bringing me back on, and thank you all for joining. I don't take it lightly that you're zooming in from all over the world, all over the country, to learn a little bit about what's going on in the job search. And there's a lot of fear and uncertainty during these times, and what we try to do at Huntr is try to make sense of it with data, and that's kind of how we can sort of understand where things are at and understand the best practices to get to where we want to go and to help you and help you reach your goals as well. So I'm an extrovert from a family of introverts. I'm one of those weird people that gets energy from talking to people, from interacting. So please do ask questions in the chat. I want this to be as dynamic as possible. Again, I don't take it lightly that you're spending your time with us here virtually, and would love to answer your questions to the best of my ability with the data that we have. On that topic, we've analyzed over 1.7 million applications across hundreds of thousands of resumes and tens of thousands of job searches, over 60,000 job searches from folks tracking their job search with Huntr.co. So we started as a job search tracking tool. We built a resume builder on top of that. And what that led to is a lot of data that no other company really has, and the few that do don't publish it. So we are a small bootstrap team of 5. We care about just helping as many job seekers as possible, one person at a time. For those that I'm not connected with on LinkedIn, let's get connected. We can get to that after the call, but I'm going to dive in and just share some of the big findings, really, starting with where things are at in the job market and moving towards what we can do about it. So let me share my screen and we'll get started. Awesome. Thumbs up if you can see. Cool. Right on. So we're going to start with the bad news first. It's difficult to find a job right now. In fact, we've been tracking median time for job search across our Huntr users over the past year, and you can see that it's been climbing consistently since Q1 of last year. So if you are feeling, what I hope you can gather from this is you are seen and it is hard. If you are struggling with your job search, you are not alone, and there's a lot of folks that are having a difficult time right now. So you can see, we're talking about 2 months or so for a job search towards the beginning of last year, and now we're starting to creep into about 3 months on average, or excuse me, the median time for a job search today. And this actually mirrors pretty well with the Bureau of Labor and Statistics that also publishes a similar stat. Our stuff skews a little bit more towards like the Wellfound audience. So probably many of you who are in, tech, startup, scale ups, tech-based companies. So this is kind of where our data comes from, is our Huntr users. So you can see that, yeah, it's been consistently getting a little bit more difficult for folks in their search. That said, there's a few silver linings here. So one is for the majority of folks, it actually takes about 50 applications to get that offer received. And you can see that there's an outlier here that I'm wanting to help folks avoid, and that's 18% of folks that are applying to over 100 jobs and not hearing back. As Rachel mentioned, I meet with job seekers one-on-one. It's how I start every day through my LinkedIn network. I'll meet with 5 to 10 job seekers for one-on-one free 15-minute job search strategy sessions. Now, these are great for me because I understand what we should be building at Huntr to improve the job search for each individual, and hopefully for thousands of others that would also benefit from those feature requests and insights. But also, it's just a way for me to try and give back and understand that it's not just users that are using our platform for tailoring the resume and improving their job search, but they're people, and people that have goals and families, and that are trying to get a job in this market. So about 20%, almost 20% of folks are applying to over 100 jobs and not hearing back. If this is you, my goal is to help today to reduce that. And there's a few data-backed best practices that we found after analyzing all of these resumes and all of these job searches that will hopefully lead to a better search and a better outcome for you. So generally speaking, I'm just going to cut right to the chase. The data-backed best practice for job search right now is applying to 10 to 20 jobs per week with a well-tailored resume that matches the job description, focusing on one target job title at a time, making sure your LinkedIn mirrors your resume, and that all of your application material is catered towards focusing you as the best candidate for that job. So that is the data-backed best practice. The second best practice is to apply on sites like Wellfound, Glassdoor, Welcome to the Jungle. If you are a student, Handshake is a great option. One of the things that we've seen with our users is LinkedIn is just not a great place for job boards, or excuse me, not a great place for finding jobs and applying to jobs. You may wonder why. So I have a few ideas here. We've got the data to inform that this is the case, but the why this is a little bit remains to be seen. There's a few theories that I have. One is LinkedIn is a social network, right? So you have, by its nature, a ton of job seekers. Almost every person that's job seeking is going to be on LinkedIn, but not every job is posted on LinkedIn. So you have a lot of applicants and they're all applying to the same jobs. And my grandfather had a saying that if you follow the crowds, you're going to end up standing in line a lot. So the idea there is there's actually a big benefit to going towards job boards that are a little bit more focused, a little bit more specialized. you know, this is a plug for Wellfound here. We happen to find that they are pretty high on our list. I've actually gotten personally 3 out of my 5 tech jobs off of Wellfound in tech sales, and we've hired half of our team off Wellfound. So it is a good site, and I believe Rachel's going to talk about some of the best practices that you can do when you have your Wellfound profile, filling that out to lead to the best results. So there's a few things that we can get into with that. Some might be wondering why Google is really high on the list. It's really simple, and I can maybe share this in the Q&A if anybody's interested, like a screen share. But Google is just by its nature a great search engine, and that includes jobs. So every job board in the world wants to be indexed by Google to be able to search for that job through a Google search. So that means that Google is a de facto job board of job boards. When you're searching and you're putting the keyword, jobs, for instance, account executive jobs in Seattle, you are going to find jobs that are posted on LinkedIn, on Indeed, on all of those sites, but you're also going to find jobs that are posted directly on the company web pages. So that's a great practice. And, I talk to a lot of recruiters as well in my job. I try to talk to at least a couple of recruiters every week with a 15-minute interview, and a few best practices there. Applying early is a great best practice. And yeah, applying on those niche job boards and the company websites is a great practice as well, and sites like Wellfound. So that's a little insight into some of this data. We can get to a little bit more. If you have questions, drop them in the chat, and we can get those addressed in the Q&A. So I mentioned the top sort of best practices for applying. One of the best practices is getting a referral, right? And so I don't want to diminish that. It is like, I think there's some data out by Ashby, which is an applicant tracking system, that if you have a referral, you are like 5x more likely to get an interview. So that's a big, that could be a big factor in helping you get an interview and ultimately an offer. But referrals make up a fraction, less than 10% of total folks that receive an offer actually got that offer via referral. So what does that mean is they're really effective, but they're hard to come by. So a lot of folks that I meet with get tired of people talking about the hidden job market, the referrals and networking and all of this, because networks and referrals are often their years, their careers, they're even lifetimes in the making, right? A lot of folks have networks through their family members and connections. So when you're in the job search, yes, you're already probably reaching out to your folks. If you haven't, you should reach out to your network. But many folks do exhaust that quite quickly. So referrals, number one. Number two, from what we found in our data, is tailoring your resume to match the job description. It can increase your application interview conversion rate 60 to 100%. So you can 1.6x to 2x your application to interview conversion rate, your interview rate, by tailoring your resume to match the job description. I can get into a little bit, and I know we had some questions already that came in about what that actually means, but generally speaking, it's your summary section, it's your skills section, and it's putting the accomplishments that are most relevant to the job that you are applying to first. So those are 3 things that you can do to tailor your resume, match the job description. Huntr offers 2 free job tailored resumes. So we teach you how to do that process. If you're a little unsure, go to huntr.co. You can check that out. This is one of the biggest myths that I love to shatter, and I'm still like fighting back against many recruiters, hiring managers, career coaches, resume writers that I meet on LinkedIn. It's a crusade of mine, if you will, is the one-page resume and the myth of the one-page resume. We analyzed over 100,000 applications, or excuse me, 100,000 resumes, and we simply found that there is no correlation to a one-page resume and greater success outcomes. And we looked at that across all industries and across all levels, entry-level folks, senior folks. There is zero correlation that we have found to an increased application interview conversion rate or more interviews if you have a one-page resume. Actually, we found that 2-page resumes tend to perform on average across the board better than one-page resumes. What do I take away from this? What I take away is that 1-page, 2-page, even 3-page, it doesn't matter so much as the quality of the content as it relates to the job that you are applying to. So you really want to put your best foot forward, lead with key metrics and numbers. One of the recruiters that I talked to recently had a pro tip: actually put the number and not the written form of the number because it stands off the page better. And contrary to popular belief, it is human beings that are still reviewing your resume most on average, and for most companies. So you do want to optimize your resume for the human being, not some nebulous ATS. And we'll get into some myth busting around the ATS in the Q&A as well. But this is just something that you should definitely pay attention to. If you are scrunching your resume in and you're making, and you can totally tell when somebody's been doing this, it's not your fault. You maybe got some bad advice, but when the margins are really small, the font's really small, everything's really scrunched in. It's just it's hard to read. It's hard to read for the hiring manager that's spending on average 8 seconds reviewing your resume. So do them a favor, do yourself a favor. 2 pages is just fine. Use the space you need to show why you are qualified for the job that you are applying to. Um, Awesome. So I'm seeing questions come into the chat, which is great. Please put those in. Again, I want to make sure that we're using your time effectively, and we're going to dive into that Q&A here in just a moment. A few other quick slides here. The summary section I mentioned. Now this is a little bit of a smaller correlation, but we do see that 92% of all resumes that were interviewed had a summary section, and generally it was a little bit shorter. It was a little bit of a shorter, more concise summary section. What I say for folks, lead with the most interesting, impactful thing that you've done in your career as it relates to the job that you are applying to. A lot of resumes start with detail-oriented, results-driven, seasoned, experienced. Like these words, hiring managers are spending those 8 seconds and they're reading hundreds of resumes and their eyes start to glaze over when they're seeing the same words repeated over and over again. And you can even do a trick. Just drop a resume or ask ChatGPT to write a resume and drop a job description in, and you're going to see one of those words show up. I know because we had to engineer Huntr's resume builder so that it doesn't just sound like this generic AI, right? And so we've spent hundreds of hours and a lot of time working on that specific thing. So try to show aggregate some of the unique, interesting, metrics-driven impact that you've done. Put it right front and center in the prime real estate of your resume, which is that summary section. Make sure your LinkedIn is on your profile, or excuse me, maybe on your Wellfound profile, but also on your resume as well. We found a pretty good correlation between having your a LinkedIn present on interviewed resumes. So make sure that you have your LinkedIn. It's good social credibility. A lot of hiring managers and recruiters want to see a resume. If they get interested, they're going to go into your LinkedIn. You can make sure that your LinkedIn is kind of mirroring the language of your resume. And putting, again, your best foot forward, leading with the most interesting, impressive things that you have done. I want to get into just some broader sort of questions around the job market and specifically AI, right? And so this was a pretty shocking stat that we have access to. We did a 1,000 job seeker survey. And folks were asked, do you think AI could replace you? Now, granted, this is 3 months ago for this data, so it's ancient in the AI world. But we found 70% of folks said, no, I don't think AI is capable of replacing me. And when we found that 13% had already said that some form of automation or AI was the reason that they were searching for a job today. So we know that AI and automation is making an impact. We are trying to help folks make sense of that. And trying to help them put their best foot forward. One question that a lot of people say or ask about with relation to AI and the job search is, well, aren't recruiters just getting hundreds of perfect resumes that are tailored to the role, and now the resume is dead? And there's just no evidence that we see anecdotally from the recruiters that we're talking to. The resumes that I see on a daily basis as I'm helping people with resume reviews or in our numbers at Huntr. So there is a long way to go from where AI is at and the capabilities to a perfect, flawless resume. 44%, I don't know if I have this slide. I don't think I added it. But we did also survey folks, and 44% said that they were willing to lie on their resume using AI if it meant to get a job. And I know why that could be the case, right? It's tough, and I've been there as a job seeker, and you are trying to figure out what is wrong, what can I do, how can I improve. We just really don't recommend lying or fabricating anything on your resume. It's going to come back to bite you in your application process, in your interviews, in ultimately when you're at the job. So you really want to make sure that you're being truthful. And I'm actually publishing on LinkedIn a guide to using AI properly in the job search tomorrow. So we can stay connected if you'd like that resource. It's a blog post of a lot of information and insights around how to use AI effectively to support you in your search. Rachel, those are my slides for today. I would love to jump into, yeah, maybe some Q&A.
Yeah, those were great. I'm super excited about the Q&A. We've got some great questions already. And thank you so much for that so far. I think we'll start with the questions we had sort of just pre-selected that because they're kind of just like these core questions that come up usually, and they'll be great to address. So the first one we have is from Diamond, who I actually can see is on the call. So if you have anything to add, Diamond, let me know. But the question was how to optimize for roles to pass the ATS. So you touched on that a little bit, but any new insights about the ATS and just sort of like the Coles notes for people who don't know much about it?
Totally. Yeah. Let me start, and Diamond, you can chime in if you have any other follow-ups or anything. Thanks for being on the call. The applicant tracking system is not some nebulous boogeyman that we don't know what it is, right? It's not a black hole for your resume. We know what it is. It is software. It is software used by recruiters and hiring managers to organize themselves. Actually, some people call Huntr like a reverse ATS or an applicant tracking system for job seekers, right? Because it's a Kanban, Trello style board, keep organized, keep notes, activities, information about specific candidate or you as it relates to your jobs that you're applying to. For hiring managers and recruiters, applicant tracking systems like Greenhouse, Lever, Ashby, Workday, which is an infamous an infamous applicant tracking system. They are all kind of glorified filing cabinets, right? They are where the hiring managers and recruiters store information. Resumes come in for specific jobs. Those resumes, there used to be this idea that it was difficult to parse or there's difficult to pass the ATS. I was just talking to a Microsoft recruiter last week, and he said, yeah, there's only one way. So there's one way that you may get automatically disqualified for a job. And I know we've all been there where it's like 6 seconds later, a minute later, and you get a denial, and you're like, okay, this must have been some sort of AI. Well, there's two things there. There's one is these hiring managers and recruiters, it's their job to review resumes, and they're often just in the tool as resumes are coming in, and they're making snap decisions. We know they're making decisions within 8 seconds on average of seeing a resume. And that's just like of human nature. We're quite biased in that. And so they're making these really quick decisions. That might be one reason. And the other is that your resume might just not be seen, right? So we know that applying in the first 100 applications, ideally in the first 20 to 50, is going to make it more likely that you're going to be seen by the recruiter or the hiring manager. And if they are using some filtration to look for specific resumes, they're generally speaking doing a keyword filter. And so they may be like, okay, I need to see everybody that has, AWS listed because it's an important skill for this job that I'm applying to. So they may be typing in certain keyword filters to find the resumes that match that. Oftentimes they're just going chronologically for when the resumes have come in. There's a huge industry out there around this applicant tracking system, beat the ATS, optimized, all of these like buzzwords, and an ATS score even, which is just a kind of a marketing term because none of these tools really have access to all of the applicant tracking systems. To be honest with you, even here at Huntr, we have to use that because of search engine optimization, and people are searching for those types of things. But we're quite honest, like, we can tell you a resume score, based off the rules and parameters that we know and the data that we have on what a good resume is. But nobody can tell you that this is going to pass because there is no pass in the applicant tracking system. It's more about like whether the recruiter or hiring manager likes the resume. That's actually the score that would matter the most, not the score for the software. So please share that information far and wide. Please share more insights if you have it in the chat. I've really done a lot of work on this. I've kind of been obsessed about it for a while now. You can even go on these companies' websites and you can look at the features that they offer for their tools. So you can really see it's not a black box what those recruiters and hiring managers have access to. And one other fun fact is AI in applicant tracking systems. We've got Workday, right? And so Workday is actually in litigation in the federal district court for discrimination bias from using AI for their hiring process or for their applicant tracking system. So that kind of changed the whole industry to be like, maybe we need to take a step back. And we actually had a study by the University of Washington, my alma mater, that said that some of these AIs do have bias towards specific people's names, and there's a lot of litigation that's happening around this right now. So generally speaking, there's a cautious entry to some of these tools. And generally speaking, a resume is not being screened out by AI or by the applicant tracking system.
Very cool, Sam. Before moving on, I see that Stephanie has a question that's related, but also I want to ask Diamond if that helped answer her question. Uh,
Yeah.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
okay, great. And Stephanie, do you want to ask your question out loud? Because it is a good
Yeah,
question about ATSs.
it's it's not exactly a question. You were talking about the ATS and you asked us to chime in. So I have an example. So many years ago, I applied to a job online, which I rarely do anymore. And this story is some of why. It had one of those things, well, do you have this? It had a couple of questions, and then you put in a resume. You can put in a cover letter if you want to. And then I had a friend of mine introduce me or take my resume by hand to the person. And then that person called me and we actually had a phone interview. And in the conversation of the phone interview, he asked me if I had applied online and I said yes. And he said, "Oh, well, those that online thing is so unforgiving." He put the criteria in himself for that. But
Yeah.
then
Mm,
he's saying, "Oh, it's so unforgiving," because he was still willing to talk to me because I didn't have the thing. What I think it was 2 years of SolidWorks. I didn't have the thing. But if you talk to the human being and they see you as a human being, it's different.
Yeah,
I
that
think
seems
that's
like,
the biggest problem with ATS. It's not, like you said, it's software and we know what it's
mm.
doing. But in my opinion, people don't know what they want and they write criteria. And then if they meet you in person, they realize, oh, that was unforgiving.
Yeah.
I can still talk to you. I'm curious what you think of that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Stephanie. I think it's exactly right. Sometimes these humans are acting like robots. We think that it's a robot or like an AI on the other side, but sometimes it's that they are moving really fast through these, scanning for keywords, looking for those things, and they themselves are also being unforgiving with what they're doing. I think that there was a question, or maybe an additional part I saw that's about two-column resumes and that's for a long time. Yeah, again, that's another factor is like the resume format, the fit, like the margins, the columns, the line breaks, the like all of this. If you use these tools, and you just put a PDF or a .docx and you upload that, the hiring manager or the recruiter is just seeing that file the same way that you would send like an email and a file is attached. So this idea of like the parsing of that, Workday has some of this, and there is some parsing, but it's only a piece of the software. It's only one functionality. The other factor there is it's become quite easy to like parse a PDF or parse a resume, which just means like extracting the text from it. And we know this because AI is actually really good at that. It's quite good at taking a PDF and getting the text from that so that it's searchable and in a database. So there's just no evidence to support the idea that like your resume, because it's 2 columns, is having a problem. Really, the best thing that we can do, and the most important thing, is optimize your resume for a human to be able to read, consume the information, and when they consume it, say, this person's a great fit for this role for XYZ reason. In response to Stephanie, you're absolutely right. And that's kind of that referral component. If you can get to a human, if you can have a human to human conversation, people are a lot more forgiving. They're a lot more interested in those like charismatic conversations. My little tidbit for like Wellfound, I said I got 3 out of my 5 tech jobs off Wellfound. Many of those with no experience, and they were starting out my career in tech. And the reason I was able to get them is I was just able to speak heart to heart to the founders of these companies that I wanted to work for and say, I understand the problem that you are obsessing over, that you're spending your life and your career focused on. And I'm passionate about it too. And I'm curious to learn more about why you're doing this instead of this. And then you just get the person talking about the thing that they love. And then you're really focused on, I'm pitching myself to another human. And that's, obviously getting to the interview is what we're talking about here. And there's many ways to do that. If you can get to it through human to human conversation, through networking, referrals, coffee chats, whatever it is, that's really great. If you need to get to them through your resume and your application material and maybe some LinkedIn follow-ups or cold outreach, just make sure you're putting your best foot forward with these data-backed best practices, and hopefully that's the best thing that you can do within your power to control to optimize for the outcome that you want.
Yeah, that's great, Sam. I also feel like what you just said is a really good segue into the next question that we had outlined. And it's something that I love the idea of when you're writing that like summary on your resume or the note when you send an application through Wellfound that you talk about how you're going to solve their problem. I think that's like a really good North Star. But Michael asked us, and I think he may be on Michael's a common name, so it might not be the same Michael, but I think he's also on the call. But they asked, what are the best ways to stand out when there are hundreds of thousands of other applicants for a role? So this is a bit more of a general one, but I think it probably has some good
Yeah,
insight.
yeah. I think it aggregates some of the things that we've been talking about as well. One is just applying early, right? That's like if you have a good application, that's going to be one of the things that you can do to stand out. The other is that tailored, customized approach. Like a lot of people right now are spending zero effort on their job search, right? They're using Easy Apply, they're using auto apply tools, they're spamming out AI generated applications, which is actually good for you. I mean, it's not good for the industry as a whole, but it's good for you if you're gonna take the time to polish, to stand out, to send a really well-crafted message, because it's gonna stand out in the pack as long as it's getting read, right? Like the problem is those applications are saturating, but what it really means is these recruiters and hiring managers are stressed and overwhelmed, just deleting, not deleting, but rejecting poor quality applications. I'm not saying that this is happening for everybody. You could have, and I do say this, 9 out of 10 times when I get on with a job seeker, there's something that I can do on their resume that is data backed that will improve their chances of getting an interview. 10% are doing everything right. And I do get on calls with folks, and we do see it in the data with that increased application to offer timeline, that it is really difficult, even if you're doing everything right. So I don't want to discount that for everybody that's on the calls. Generally speaking, though, there is something that you can do. And yeah, Rachel brought up a great thing that I always would like to mention. On Wellfound, one of my favorite features is this why do you want to work here box, or there's like some sort of pre-qualification questions that give you actually a way to communicate why you think you're really actually special for the role and really showcase yourself. And that's, I think, really helpful because if you are curious, if you are passionate, if you're determined and energetic about that opportunity, you can really showcase yourself in that space as well. And that's why I also focus on that summary section. If you make that first sentence a wow first sentence, you're going to be in the top 10% of all applicants, because 90% of applicants are going to say, I'm a detail-oriented marketing executive with 5 years of experience. And that is the same that every single detail-oriented marketing executive with 5 years of experience that's applying to this mid-level role is going to be saying. If in that first sentence you say, I'm a marketing executive who's driven 10 million impressions across social media channels, growing followings from 50K to 100K, an example, right? That speaks to what you have done that's unique to you. Those are numbers that are going to stand out on the page, and it's going to be your unique foot forward. And that's something I guarantee you that the vast majority of the folks that are applying are not doing. So that's another way to stand out.
Awesome. Those are such good tips. And I think I'm gonna pivot from the questions we had prepared just because we actually have a lot in the chat and I want the people who are actually on the call to get their chance. So I'm gonna scroll to the top here, and I think actually the first question is related to what we're talking about. Oh no, it's not. This is a different one. But that's okay, we'll get to it. So Robert Wyckoff, do you want to ask your question out loud?
Sure, yeah. Probably blindsiding you with maybe not having the data behind it, but just was curious with your number of applications to time to offer slide, is that skewed like for more junior roles? Is that a more compressed timeline? And for more senior roles, does it drag out, or even if you're shooting from the hip?
Yeah, sorry. So I think that sorry, I'm seeing your question here around irrespective of candidate's level of experience. Was that in addition? Sorry, can you rephrase the question one more time?
Yeah. Basically, if you're a senior, does it take 80 days to get the same kind of outcome? Or if you're junior, is it more typical of apparently I can't string together a question, which explains why I'm not doing well on interviews, I guess.
No, you're totally good, and I totally understand. I think we have our data set composition here, basically it skews towards I think it's about 40% of early entry level folks, and then 20% senior. So if you want to like kind of look a little bit more into this, so it is generally an aggregation. And it skews a little bit more entry level. But the vast majority, there it is. Actually, senior level, 30%, 40%. Yes, it's a pretty good mix. And then, generally folks in the kind of 90 to 120K salary band, generally bigger companies. So that's a little bit of insight into that information. I would love to be able to drill down into that data a little bit more in the future. I think we're going to be able to do that and get more specific advice that's even more personalized and relevant to folks. That's kind of the ultimate goal of our data back sort of system would be that. But I think it's a great question, and hopefully that helps answer it.
Cool. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. And then we have a question from Mame. Yeah? Do you want to ask it out loud, or do you want me to ask it for you? Hopefully they're still here.
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Hi, yeah, my name is Mamea. I have a question about trying to gauge your experiential level. When I started my job search about a year ago, I didn't really have that much experience. And so I was like applying for entry level roles, new grad roles. I wouldn't get those. I'm currently doing an internship and I'm still job searching. I don't get mid-level roles. I was like, I don't know where to apply because I get a rejection because maybe I have a good resume, but not for the roles. It's really confusing. Sometimes on entry level roles, you see reposted. It's like, what exactly is entry? What is mid? What is junior? What is senior? It's kind of confusing and blurs the line. So yeah, I'm really confused about it.
It's a great question. And there's so many memes out there that exist around the entry level job asking for 10 years of experience, right? And there's a lot of this right now. Basically, what we're seeing is this cascading effect, right? Like there's layoffs happening in the bigger tech firms, and those layoffs are across the board. And there's also senior level folks that are especially in product management, project management, software engineering a little less so, but there's certain industries and sectors that have been hit really hard, and so then you have senior folks that are applying to more junior roles. With respect to you and where I would call the kind of the entry to mid-level kind of black hole, just know that like you should apply to jobs that you're a couple years off of the experience level of. Let's say you have 2 years of experience and it's asking for 3, 4. I think that there's generally a good buffer zone of a couple of years. Definitely don't apply to a job that's 10 years of experience, VP level, but stretch yourself, challenge yourself, know that application to interview conversion rate, and that's just what I'm trained on is that those numbers, and coming back to that, it's probably going to be a little bit less if you are stretching yourself to apply for those roles. Doesn't say that you shouldn't. Everybody's situation is different. Some people need a job and they need a job right away. In that case, maybe you're taking a little bit less, but you're applying to jobs that are more in that wheelhouse of a few years of experience and entry. But don't sell yourself short, and always be applying if you are passionate and driven about the role and you can feel something. Even if you don't have all of the experience, usually you can impart that in your application material, in your outreach, in your follow-ups, to showcase that to the person, and that's going to be your best bet. Now, does that answer your question, Emily?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, cool.
Great. And now we have another question from Anita that I'm excited that you're asking this question because it's come up before, but I haven't heard Sam's answer. Anita, do you want to, say it out loud?
Yeah, basically I know it's been my experience and other people's experience where you see a role posted and then maybe you go through the interviewing process even, and then you see it reposted. And then that just keeps going on for like 6 months. I don't understand what's happening there.
Yeah.
Do you have any insights at all into that?
Yeah, I think it's like Investopedia called me up for an interview about that specific question yesterday. And so I think that that's like something that's going on right now and people are trying to make sense of it. And the response that I gave to the reporter is, it can happen for a few different reasons. One is one that I'm really not a fan of, which is for smaller companies and for certain companies, posting jobs on LinkedIn actually gets kind of a viral moment right now because there's so many people searching for jobs. So unfortunately, are some folks and firms that will take advantage of that and post jobs and repost jobs because it's getting more eyeballs for their product. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I know of some specific companies that do that. And it's terrible. And it's really frustrating that LinkedIn doesn't do a better job because these are by and large a LinkedIn problem because that's where so many job seekers are. Every job seeker is there, and so you get a lot of eyeballs when you're posting jobs on LinkedIn. That said, it can also be an honest situation where they had a failed search. At Huntr, we had somebody even go as far as signing the offer, and we started to onboard them. And then they said, sorry, I actually decided to go with another company. And then we have that awkward moment of being like, shoot, do we need to restart this search from scratch? Luckily, we were able to go to another person, and it turned out to be a much better person actually for us and for the role. But yeah, so it can run the gambit for why this happens. Generally speaking, again, trying to stay off of LinkedIn where this tends to happen more can be a good best practice, and applying to jobs on other sites. But yeah, it is a trend, and so you're definitely onto something there, and that's the best understanding of what I have for that right now.
And just to add to that, on Wellfound, we have some badges for companies, but then also for like specific roles that will like show that a company is actively hiring. And then our job search, you can find stale jobs. We don't like take off jobs for companies because it can be confusing whether or not it's just a job that they kind of are constantly hiring for or what have you. But if a job is stale and they're not managing it, it won't show up in your job search when you're signed in as in Wellfound, which can really help you surface jobs that are actually hiring and recruiters are actually logging in and managing the applicants for. So it's just like another reason beyond just people trying to do kind of these advert job posts on LinkedIn to maybe look at something like Wellfound, or I'm sure other companies do that too, just for extra context. So this next question comes from IML. Um, Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. And do you want to read it out loud? This was related to what Sam was talking about earlier, actually.
Sure. Can you hear me?
I
Yes.
can, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So
Hi.
yeah, I I think that customizing the resume is a very good idea, but I'm not sure if I'm overdoing it because I find I'm spending maybe too much time on
Yeah.
customizing the resume. So yeah, any suggestions for getting faster at it?
Yeah, I have a few. I mean, I do have to plug Huntr because that's kind of our flagship product, which is just like tailoring a resume to match a job description, which is 2x more likely to get an interview, and doing that really fast. So you can see like we do these kind of AI tailoring tools. One of my favorite examples is like if I were applying to a job at Amazon, this is kind of showing how it would tailor this resume. Granted, I'm not a great fit for this role because all of my experience is in startups, and this is for an account executive at one of the biggest companies in the world. But I thought this was surprising because it's not something I would have thought of myself. Is successfully doubling revenue at Huntr as an account executive is really great if I'm applying to another startup company on Wellfound, but it's not so great if I'm talking about enterprise sales at Amazon. So this was actually, I thought, a pretty good talking about Fortune 100 accounts that I worked with, right? And having that be more of the focus. Here, there's a little, like, I would still work on this, right? Like, again, we were talking about having actual numbers here. And then using a tool to help you tailor the skills section really fast that can just grab the job description, put it into a tool and say, hey, here are the skills that you have in your skills bank. Here are the skills that they have listed, and even the adjacent skills that they have listed in the job description. And so I have to give a plug there for Huntr because that is such a focus of ours, is trying to get that tailoring process down to 10 to 15 minutes. And I have this like how to tailor guide. Maybe I can just pull it up and drop it in the chat if I'm to be so bold here. But yeah, this is also just whether you're using Huntr or not, this might be able to help you just understand the key parts that are best to tailor, and help you there. Because you're right, like with all of these AI tools, we're facing this kind of conundrum where we have all of these tools and we can build really cool things and we can vibe code our own resume tailoring tool. But then we all of a sudden find that we're spending 20 hours on building a tool to apply and we're not actually applying. And it can be quite hard with some of the prompt engineering to get the right data and accurate and good sort of tools out there to support you in tailoring. So yeah, trying to spend about 20 minutes is a good best practice. Again, thinking about 10 to 20 jobs per week with a well-tailored resume is generally a data-backed best practice. That's going to boil down to am I doing this math right? 2 to 4 resumes per week, depending on taking weekends off, which you probably should. But yeah, so thinking about that as kind of being consistent with the tailoring process. A lot of people, they sort of whiplash and they start really well tailored and then they don't hear back for a couple of weeks and they kind of freak out, right? Which is totally natural response. Then they start easy applying. They start applying to hundreds of jobs. They start not hearing back because that's also difficult. And then they're kind of stuck, right? And they're thinking that the tailoring didn't work. Where you do want to pivot after 20 to 50 applications. You want to have somebody take a look at your resume, friend, family member, Huntr, maybe a resume writer or coach, although really please do not spend thousands of dollars. You do not need to. There are a lot of free services out there and free support, but you should generally get a little bit of a gut check if you're not hearing back within 20 to 50 applications to see, is it the job title that I'm going for and the type of job that's the problem? Or is it the resume and the application materials not being translated well enough to speak to the specific job to get seen by the hiring manager? So sorry, that was a long-winded response, but hopefully it answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
You got the heart emoji. That
Yeah,
means you did a
I'll
good
take
job.
it.
Charisse has a related question. Actually, I'm super curious to know about this too. Charisse, do you want to ask out loud? If not, I'll ask. Okay, maybe she's not with us anymore.
I'm in a noisy area. Can you ask the
I'll read
question
it
for me, Rachel?
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
So they asked, based on the best practice to cater your resume to the role, do recruiters check to make
Mm,
sure LinkedIn matches it exactly? Which is something I've been curious about, like when you're making all these adjustments, how, like maybe
yeah.
what's your approach to what's public when
Right.
you're doing
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really smart. Thanks for bringing that up. Usually I address that. You have many resumes that you can make for many different roles, but you only have one LinkedIn. And so because of this, I recommend applying to one specific target job title for the next 50 applications and tailor your resume and your LinkedIn to that specific job title, and then make minor adjustments to that specific resume for each job description that you are applying to and for each job. So you can kind of think of that as like a role-based resume and a role-based LinkedIn, and that's your main focus. So for instance, a lot of people, there's so many examples of this, but let's say you've been a project manager and a product manager. And so you are trying to decide, like, am I a project manager? Am I a product manager? And you're going to put it in your LinkedIn that way, and then you have two different resumes, and it's all kind of split. And we humans we're just like, it's really hard. Like, we can do a lot of different things, but in this hiring market, the job title that you've had most recently is the most likely to get you an interview moving forward. And so it's a tight job market. So I really do recommend focusing on one target job title. So in that example, if you were a project manager most recently, just think in your head, I am a project manager. Put that in your LinkedIn and put it in your resume and focus that resume around that role, and then start to tailor off of that. So you're right, you only have one LinkedIn, which means you should only be trying to optimize and focus on one target job title at a time. If you are in a higher volume sort of, I need to get a job, that's kind of the data backed best practice. I wanted to just really quickly, Rachel, address one of the questions that David had about hallucinations on tailoring, because I think it's such a great question. Most tools and ChatGPT is going to generally just say, and this is going to be something I address in the blog post tomorrow that I have to finish up tonight. But it is like, oftentimes we're getting these kind of hallucinations, right? And a hallucination is really basic, right? These LLMs are not gods. And I can get on a soapbox about that, but they are predictors of words. They're really good predicting the next word that's going to come up in a sequence, or translating images to words and then putting that through an LLM, right? So the large language model. So resumes, you can use LLMs in a great way because it's structured words. And so LLMs, when provided good context, can structure words really well. But they can also, if they don't have that context, just make stuff up because they're like, well, based off of my training data, it would be best if you have made $52 million in revenue to apply to this job. And you're like, where is this $52 million coming from? So you don't want to lie, and you don't want to hallucinate or allow an AI to hallucinate for you. So we've put some pretty hard stops in Huntr to say, hey, those numbers, we actually peel them out and put variables. So think like, and even if you're using ChatGPT for this, just think like, okay, this is the format, the structure. Let me remove the specific number that it's putting in there and think about a better number to use. Sometimes, yeah, it actually does a pretty good job of this. And then you can go in and be like, okay, now it's talking about net revenue, because I did mention already, it knows that I 3x my annual compensation at Fortune 100s. Now I got to think like, what was the actual net revenue that came in? So that's kind of how we handle hallucinations. And even if you're using a different tool, that's kind of the best practice, is to use it as a drafting tool and then go find the information that you have to put in there as best you can.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. We also have a question from David. I don't know if David wants to ask it out loud, that's related to metrics, which kind of relates to what you're talking about exactly. David, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
So, it would be lovely if I had jobs that routinely produced metrics to which I could claim sole responsibility. Yes, I single-handedly tripled Amazon sales last week. It was an off week.
Yeah.
Right. I can. Is that enough for you to riff on?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, totally get you, David. Yeah, I think that there's and you know I have folks that I talk to that are like lab researchers, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to figure out if my impact is going to cure cancer for another 20 years probably. So you know there's so many examples, right, of you know work that is still valuable work that doesn't necessarily have a metric attached. So I can offer kind of these general trends, and one thing that I would offer that's specific to what you're sharing is you know people do so the general sort of rule of thumb is did X, which led to Y, which had Z impact. And so you can kind of you know verb is what you do, right? So that's you know the did X, you know leading to the Y specific thing that may or may not be well quantifiable, and that's going to vary. But people do shy away from the Z impact, which is in your what you're describing, tripling you know Amazon sales in a week. Um, I'd say that's you know obviously a great extreme example, but I do think most people are forgetting to show the impact that their team had or the impact that was felt across the organization as a result from their work. And that's context for the hiring manager that they might not know. Now they know, you know, if you have been at Amazon for the last 20 years, they know that you've gone with Amazon from a, you know, I don't know if it was 20 years ago, but, you know, roughly, you know, an online bookstore to one of the biggest companies in the world. So automatically, just by the name Amazon, you're going to get a lot of credit there. Most people have companies or worked at companies that people don't know, and they're not familiar with them. But maybe that company did 10x, and maybe you were in recruiting at that company and you actually onboarded, you know, 5 through 100 for the employees. So providing some of that while you didn't do all of it can give a little bit more insight into the world in which you have lived, so as it relates to the job that you are applying to. So hopefully that helps a little bit. But generally speaking, yeah, not overselling it, but you can also use words or use bridges like, you know, part of a team that did X, or which helps the organization achieve Y, you know, achieve Z as my variables as I get them tripped up here. But hopefully that makes some sense. Yes.
So Sam, thank you so much. We've got like 3 minutes left, so I want to make sure to just go through kind of housekeeping stuff at the end here. That was such an interesting conversation. I feel like we just skimmed the surface of your data stuff. I don't know if you want to put the link to the full report in the chat. I think that'd be really helpful for people. I want to put in the link our Discord. We've got a Discord where a lot of these conversations continue after the fact. I always go in there. We've got some helpful channels as well. If Discord's a place that you like to hang out sometimes, we've got something called Profile Level Up where you can post your resume or a cover letter that you're trying to workshop and get some peer review. It can be really helpful, maybe as like what Sam was saying, after you've gone through some AI editions of it, to get a real human to quickly check to see if there's anything strange about it. And then I'm about to put in the chat a couple of links on things that you can do. I've lost my chat somehow, but I'll put it up in 1 second. A couple of things that you can do in Wellfound that can help you improve your success while using Wellfound specifically. So just on resumes, but because Wellfound and a lot of other jobs marketplace tools also are a place to be sourced, it's really important that you fill out your profile fully. That's a lot like your LinkedIn profile, and those are the things that are searchable in our system for a recruiter to cold call out and reach out to you. And it also helps bolster those applications as well. So I'm going to put some guides in there as well. The next guide that I'm going to share is how to write custom questions or notes. I think a lot of people actually skip over this because they're trying to optimize, but this is really similar to what Sam was talking about with trying to explain how you're going to solve their specific problem by joining their team. And those like notes and custom questions from companies are like your opportunity to show that. And the last one is just how to set up save job alerts, because as Sam also alluded to, this quicker you apply to jobs, the higher percentage of chance that you'll be able to match with them before they like kind of do their first scouring of the application. So I dropped that into the chat now. I'm going to also provide that in a follow-up email to us, to everyone on the call. We'll send out a full recording of this. So if you want to return to something, we'll be able to watch it back there. And of course, you can reach out to us via that email that I'm going to send out if you have any questions at all about Wellfound or anything else, really. And then lastly, Wendy has just dropped into the chat a survey for how this call has gone. So I would love your feedback. It's also an opportunity to sign up for future Ask a Recruiters if you enjoyed this experience and would like to return. I'll make sure to always keep you on the invite list if you add it there. But also, I really love hearing people's suggestions, or to know more information about it a little bit more in depth. So feel free to let me know. And that's it. Thank you again, Sam. We're so glad to have you back. Hopefully next year we'll have you back again. And we have continued information on these amazing data points that you've been sharing with us. I really appreciate your insight and patience answering everyone's questions.
Yeah, thank you all. Happy to connect on LinkedIn. I put my link there in the chat, and just happy to be a resource in your search. And yeah, thanks, Wellfound team, for the opportunity to come back and share.
Ready to find your next role or discover top talent? Visit us at wellfound.com.